Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Earlier, we were talking about Super Bowl 58's viral moments, and now we're going to be discussing how name, image, and likeness has affected the NFL draft. But before we do, I just wanted to remind you guys to like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions from the viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure your question gets read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donation link with your question. That link is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetworks./tip. Let's put your question at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also just really helps the show. Alrighty.
This is one I've been having this conversation with so many people before this ever came out. So I'm looking forward to touching on this one. So go ahead.
Alrighty. The Chiefs hoisted the Lombardi trophy Sunday night after a superb final to the postseason. And with that, we are officially in draft season. But the depth of talent blooming this spring is much less robust than years past, a direct result of name, image, and likeness rules and the transfer portal keeping significantly more players in college football. The NFL announced that 54 underclassmen were granted early entry to this year's draft. That is less than half the numbers the league is accustomed to applying for early admission over the past decade, including a record of 135 players in 2014. But for most, the biggest allure of the NFL has always been money. With the Supreme Court's ruling in 2021 that collegiate athletes are entitled to payment for their own name, image, and likeness, more players are choosing the relative easy money of marketing deals in the present rather than the potential NFL contracts in the future.
Okay. This is why I am so pro name, image, and likeness. Everyone's looking at this, but a lot of people, not everyone, a lot of people look at this as a bad thing. Like, you don't have as many players in the draft. Well, guess what? Every year for decades, there's been a lot of people in the draft that had no business being in the draft. Let's say you're a poor kid from the inner city, the trailer park, the barrio, whatever you want to call it, wherever you're from, and your mom and dad is on welfare. You're a poor family. Maybe you're struggling to get food, but the one thing you have going for you is you're able to play a game, which is football or basketball. So you're really not ready to go to the NFL. But hey, if I make the practice squad, I'm gonna make 200,000. Or if I'm Mr. Irrelevant, like Brock Purdy, maybe I can get on, but he's making 900,000. And you're looking around and you're like, hey, we're having a hard time keeping the lights on, the water on, trying to get fed. I can take a chance. And the worst case scenario is I get there and I make a little money, 100,000, 200, 300, 400,000 to some very poor people. That's life-changing money for them. Mom is okay. Now I can pay mom's electric bill and her car payment and this and that. And same for dad and aunt and uncle. So there's a lot of kids, they look around and the scouts say, hey, you could be a 5th round draft pick or a 6th round draft pick or a 7th rounder. Or, hey, kid, you're not going to get drafted, but you can get on with a team and maybe make the practice squad. And they're like, how much does practice squad pay? Maybe a couple 100,000. Hey, I'm going. And they're not ready for the NFL. They get chewed up and spit out. Maybe they're a camp, what are called a camp body. They go there, they play in training camp, they get a few $1,000s, and their career is over. Where they should have stayed in college, they could have gotten their degree, they could have polished their craft so that now instead of just making a practice squad, now they're getting drafted, even more money. Maybe instead of being a late round or Mr. Irrelevant or something like that, maybe they stick around a year or two and now they're able to be a 1st or a 2nd round draft pick. these kids before got $0 to play college football. Now, with the name, image, and likeness, these kids are able to say, hey.
Oh no. Sorry guys, we got some technical difficulties. Oh, no. 1 second guys, sorry.
In there.
You did. I lost you.
Oh, I have.
I
Okay, you're
lost
there,
you.
Faith?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So, did you lose me completely then?
Yeah, I
How
did
far?
for a
How back?
second.
Okay.
You were talking about how kids for a while were going into the NFL draft and not finishing college because they weren't getting paid. And now,
Right. So these kids now, let's say, like I said, let's say you're a quarterback at Arkansas. You're not good enough to really be a starter or backup, but maybe but you're from a poor family. You can go to training camp and maybe make a team. Worst case scenario, you're getting a few $1,000s to be in a training camp, and maybe next year, maybe you get on at the World League or something, or USFL or XFL or whatever league is out there. But you're just trying to make some money because you're from a poor family, from a poor upbringing. Now you're a quarterback at Arkansas and you're getting 200, 300,000 a year.
mm-hmm.
I'm not going to the NFL. I have no shot. Maybe I stick around 2, 3, 4 years, and maybe now I get drafted. Maybe now I'm able to do something. Or even if you're not, my family with a few 100,000 a year for 4 years or 5 years, your family and your life is starting up at a different level.
Right.
You have some money, you have your degree now. It's just a much better situation for a team or a player. I use a great example of this is Maurice Clarett. He was an all-world running back for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And he wanted to turn pro. So he tried to challenge the NFL because you have to 3 years from graduating. So he tried to go turn pro early. He tried to challenge the NFL because he was from a poor environment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so then it ended up he didn't win. He had to set out. He finally came in and he was a massive flop. Well, that would have never happened in today's world. As a top flight running back for Ohio State, he's making a few 100,000 a year. He's gonna wait.
Yeah.
Till it's time. Maybe he walks out of college, maybe $500,000 to $1 million before he steps foot on the NFL, and so now he's able to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
So many guys are like, "Hey, he's injured. I'm gonna turn pro, and maybe I can rehab with a team, and then maybe get on with a team." Now these guys, hey, you rehab with your school because you're getting that name, image, and likeness money, and then maybe you come back, you show that you can do what you can do, and you move up in the rankings, move up in the draft. Name, image, and likeness is a good thing. I know a lot of people look at name, image, and likeness, and they're like, these players are blowing it on diamond rings and Rolls Royces and things like that. Yes, there are people and players that are doing that, but that is a small minority of people that are doing it. For every one person that is getting the diamond necklace and the Rolex or Breitling watch, there's somebody else that's helping mom pay the electric bill,
Mm-hmm.
maybe paying the rent, giving their kids or their kids or their parents a different life. I love this. This is not a bad thing. And also when you look at the fact that the NFL has less players to choose from, the players that are going to be in the draft are more equipped. Now they don't have to rush into the NFL. So
Mm-hmm.
these are more polished players. So these players, when the NFL team drafts them, they're more likely to stick than the average player, that the lower late round picks that are just worthless. The NFL's draft used to be a few more rounds, but the reason why they did away with those extra rounds were these players were not ready for the NFL, and teams didn't want to bother with it. Now these players have a chance. I love it. So it's a good thing. What do you say to that?
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like I've always been the person that's like, if you're going to use players' name, image, and likeness, I feel like they should be compensated for that because,
Schools were making millions off of them.
right, and they weren't getting anything out of that, and I don't think that is fair. So I definitely agree with them getting paid for the name, image, and likeness.
Imagine this, Faith, and I apologize if I cut you off.
No, you're good.
Okay, let's say there's a game called Sim City out there. And let's say there's a game and it's Sim City, Georgia. And you can walk around the campus of Sim City. And one of the characters is Faith. And Faith, it's you, it's your image, it's everything about you. The game and the school is making millions off this. But you're a poor college student, barely able to make it. And you look over there and you're like, wait a minute, the school is making all this money off of me. The game is making all this money off of me. Is that right? Now you're struggling just to stay in school.
Yeah.
Now, imagine if that game now cuts you a check so that it pays for all your school and maybe gives you 30,000-40,000 extra dollars a year. How much would that change? That guarantees you're staying in college and you're not dropping out now. You're going to finish your degree. It gives it. Same with football. There's video games and all this stuff that these schools make money off of, and all these organizations that make money off of, and the kids are making nothing. Now they are. So I think it's a really good thing.
Do you think there is reason to believe the junior player pool will ever return to its pre-name, image, and likeness and transfer policy strength?
No. The genie is out of the bottle, and it's like I said, it's a good thing. These players, I think you're going to find over the years that the players are a much higher caliber, and there's less NFL cuts where they're cutting so many players. These draft picks are going to be, these people that they're drafting are like, these are players that can contribute to a team right out the gate. And so it's going to make it a lot easier it's going to, in the end, I think it's going to balance out, because what happens is every year there's way more players than teams. And so most of the players that get drafted never have a shot at all. But now there's going to be much more higher caliber players that are available for drafting. And the players that don't make it, let's say your football dream is over, but you have a savings account, you have some money, your mom and dad are taken care of, and you have your degree. There's going to be a lot more kids. There's going to be a lot more student athletes that graduate. Look at it over the next 10 years. I think people are going to be surprised at the number of student athletes that actually graduate, because it's like, hey, I was never good enough to make it, but I was good enough to make a little money and stay in school, pay my tuition, and graduate. Now these kids that are graduating have a little money, they were able to play a little football, and they don't graduate in debt, because a lot of times, yes, you get a scholarship, but it doesn't cover, let's say, all the other stuff that you have to do. And so kids end up getting student loans and things of that nature because it doesn't cover everything. And so many of these athletes come out in debt. Or especially, forget about football, the basketball player, the gymnast, the soccer player. Some of these guys are getting name, image, and likeness money as well. They're able to graduate without being in debt, and that gives you a leg up on life there. Not being in debt and maybe having a little money changes everything.
It sure does. Man, I wish I was getting some name, image, and likeness money.
That's right. Like I said, a little Sim City, Georgia, next thing you know, Faith is getting a check cut to her.
Heck yeah, I'd love that.
I would play that game.
All right, guys. Well, with that, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll be discussing a woman who falls in a dumpster after tossing out her trash.